Welcome, everybody, to the Hot Tag Hooligans Wrestling Podcast Show. My name's Aaron. Joined with me, as always, is Tom. Today, we have a very, very, very special guest. I can't say that enough. She's a legend in the world of professional wrestling. It's the one and only Miss LuFisto. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing pretty good. How is life in Canada right now?
It sucks. No, I mean, it's good. Like, when we talk about the COVID and everything, our government is it's doing pretty good. It is what it is. We're hitting the second wave right now. And it's just that I haven't wrestled for 8 months. And this weekend I was watching The Collective and I was like, oh man, I want to be there. And I really got depressed. It's like, it's getting, like, at first I was okay with that. It's like, oh, I'm going to heal my body and everything's going to be fine. But now it's just, now I'm looking and it's like, now it's long. Now it's getting really long before I step in the ring again. And I don't know when that's going to happen.
So in Canada right now, are there a lot of restrictions on actually having events such as professional wrestling or small or large gatherings?
Besides Alberta, and I think there was one show in Ontario, combat sports of any kind, including professional wrestling, is prohibited. Can't have it. Not even training.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like we could train, they called it like a bubble of four with 4 people together. We could train, but now some of the bigger cities are like, they call it code red, so it's back to confinement because the second wave is hitting. So now they closed everything already. So it's like, some of the zones, like the gyms, are closed. I'm like really lucky that my city is still orange. So gyms are still open, but it's very limited of people who can go to the restaurant, and you can't have more than 6 people in your home, and you have to social distance and all that stuff. So, but if you're like red, like in the big city like Montreal, everything is closed. So yeah, really, and most of the wrestling schools are in Montreal and Quebec City, the bigger places. So everything is closed right now, and it really sucks.
So what do you do? You're used to juggling all these things, and now not being able to do them. What do you kind of occupy your time with?
Well, I'm doing a lot of design. I design gear, and I've been hitting, the gym harder. I got myself a trainer, so I've been on a diet. I've been on a training, and I've been working, like I said, on gear. I've been watching a lot of wrestling too. It's something with the years I was not watching wrestling much. It's like I was too involved in it. But now, I don't miss an episode of Dynamite. I subscribe to the Ring of Honor channel. I've been I love the Pure tournament is so good. Like, I love that they're doing that, and that Ring of Honor is also very careful with the health of the wrestlers. And I've been looking at older stuff, and it's like I've been almost like falling in love with wrestling, like watching it again. So that's a good thing. I mean, that's something positive.
So who are some of the talents right now that you're watching that kind of light that fire in you to give you that passion?
Jonathan Gresham, he's amazing. Like, I think he can't do no wrong. Like, everything looks so easy. I've been like really happy to see somebody who I consider a friend, Chris Dickinson, doing so good right now. Like, he's having the best matches, and he's getting a lot of exposure, and I think it's a long time coming. Chris has been working really hard, and I love to see him like succeed. And also I keep up with what Jordan is doing, and most of the girls in wrestling. And like I said, I do watch All Elite, and I do watch the Horowitz stuff, and I'm discovering people I didn't know much about, like David Finlay. I knew about him, but I was not, really, I didn't watch a lot of his matches, but now I discover his stuff. I think it's really good. I really love that Tony Deppen was also in the tournament. And I love what Dr. Black is doing in ROH too. So yeah, there's talent that I'm discovering, and there's others that I'm like rediscovering. And I've been really enjoying like their work.
You talked about the collective over the weekend, and that was basically the independent WrestleMania weekend for a lot of
Yeah.
talent.
Mhm.
So, being in Canada, were you not able to, if you wanted to, not even be able to come to the United States to actually work?
The border is closed, so unless you do have a work relationship, meaning a contract or anything else like that, you can't cross the border because of COVID. So let's say I would have a contract with All Elite or Ring of Honor, then I would go there. It's like, hi, I'm going to work, and you have the paper, then you can go. Otherwise, you can go. I know there's people who can go if they have family, which I could probably do because half of my family lives in the United States. I have cousins in the Dallas area and also Hunson's uncle in Florida. But I mean, if it needs to be like, if you try the cross and they yeah, and it's not work related and you go to work and whatever, there can be all kinds of problems. And when you come back, also you need to confine yourself for 14 days. So yeah, unless you have like a legit work relationship with a contract, you can't get in.
You're going on to your 24th year as a
Mm-hmm.
professional wrestler, which is amazing. And the biggest thing with professional wrestling that I've noticed throughout the last 4 or 5 years is that if you would have looked 10, 15 years ago, at the age of 40 years old, you would have been considered too old. Your career would have basically been over. But now
Yep.
some of these wrestlers are in their 40s, pushing almost 50, and they're doing some of the best actual work that they're actually doing. Someone like Randy Orton comes to mind. He's finally right now doing some of the best work of his
PCO.
life. PCO is another one whose career was basically left for dead years ago, has reinvented himself to
Yep.
become a household name for anyone who's a professional wrestling fan. Chris Jericho's another one right now who's on top of his game. So when you see people like that, does that rejuvenate you mentally and physically to know that, yes, I got 24 years, but I may have another 10 years left in me?
Oh yeah, and I feel I do too. Like it's not. I mean, with all these people, like showing the world that age is just a number when it comes to wrestling, because you can modify your style, you can work differently. There's so many things you can do. If you have bad knees, there's a way to work around it. That's one of the beautiful thing about wrestling. You can change your style, change your gimmick, modify so many things that you can still be in the business or even in the ring. And these people are showing the world that you should never say to a wrestler, oh, you're too old. How do you know? You don't know how I feel. You don't know what I'm capable of. You don't know the things I could tweak and change to make it different. And like, I honestly feel that at 40, I'm a lot smarter than I was. I can go out there and actually be a good ring general for the new generation. I love working with people who are just starting in. I've always felt that was something that was missing when I started, that I didn't have that person who could like come with me and you're going to learn on the spot. Like back then it was more like, oh, I'll see if you're tough, if you really want this, and, you know, hard shot and stuff. Now I feel like the new generation have this beautiful opportunity to learn from people who've been in the business for so long, and veterans are willing to share their knowledge like in the ring, and it's the best way to learn. And I think that's the beautiful thing that's happening these days, and that's so different from my generation. And yeah, it just proves that age shouldn't be a factor for a promoter to hire someone. Can this person go? Is this person over? Can this person make my talent look good? Yes. Then don't look at age, because you're limiting yourself for something absolutely stupid.
For someone who may not know a lot about your career, a lot of the times in your earlier days, you did have to wrestle nothing but men because there wasn't a lot of female talent for you to wrestle. Nowadays, it is a complete opposite. Women's professional wrestling is at its all-time high. There are 15-year-old talent such as Billy Starks and talent like that that are coming up who are starting at a super young age. What kind of advice would you give the younger talent now that are female? Would you tell them to continuously work the female talent to prolong their career, or get more intergender and physical with the men more?
I would say work both. Work people who are more experienced and you're going to learn at every match. Like every time you have a match, you should learn something from it. You can make mistake. It's going to happen. I don't think there's such a thing as a perfect match. Like every time I watch one of my matches, I always see that one thing I could have done better, or two or three things, or even more sometimes. Like I've never, like, stay hungry, never be satisfied. Like learn from every match. I remember back then I had to bring my little camera to film my match, but now everything's online. Watch it, learn from your match. Sit down with someone who has more experience. Tell them what you did wrong, what you did good, what you need to work on. Try to hide your weaknesses and work with your strength. And also one thing that I always say, to know where you're going, you have to know where you came from. So learn about the people who were there before. What did they do for you? What's the evolution of women's wrestling? No, it's not from WWE. It started in the Indies. Learn from that and know who was there before, know what they did. So today it is so easy for you. Because compared to when I started, today for women's wrestling, it is absolutely easy to go out there and have a match with anybody. Like I had to fight the governments in Canada so I could wrestle the guys. Girls don't have to do that today. And there's like awesome matches happening. Like this weekend, Layla Hirsch was wrestling Josh Alexander, and he also wrestled Kylie Ray. And there's a ton of other matches where girls are fighting guys, and they're providing like great matches for the fans in attendance and the one watching at home. It doesn't matter if it's a guy or a girl. It was a good match. So, I mean, that's what matters.
Do you see yourself in the next 10, 15 years having the passion to do more of the teaching and training for the up-and-coming professional wrestlers?
I don't know if I would teach like classes. I did it, and I still give seminars. Like right now I can't, but I was giving seminars. I really like to teach. I like to teach in the ring, but I like teaching even more in a classroom setting where you explain stuff. Because I feel that's something that's missing. Like a lot of people are doing the rolls and the whips and the bumps, but how about the etiquette where you're supposed to say how you set up a match, how you should plan a match. So, what's the basic of planning a match? So wherever you go, you're going to tell a story throughout this match. Working on your character, working on your gear, working like you are your own product. So these are more things that I love to talk about and work on with the new generation.
That's a great point, because I was just at a show on Saturday, the Flawless event in Tennessee, the all women's, and that's one thing that I kind of noticed is that there's such young talent there, and they know how to work. It's that storytelling that once they get that down, there's going to be half of that card, if not more, are going to be big time stars. And of course I got to see Jordan for the first time ever, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, moves are cool, but if they don't mean anything, I mean, you might be able to do a 450, but if it's just a 450 between all kinds of moves that don't mean anything, when you hit it, it's just going to be another yay, and that's it. But if you build it towards it and you try it and you miss it, and then when you finally hit it, then people are happy. You created that story, that roller coaster of emotions. And that's really like the most important thing. Like if you can do a match if you have 3 moves. It's how you set them up, how you sell, how you tell a story, what's your character, what do you want people to feel when you get out? Like, are you a baby face or you're a heel? Like, it's all about emotions, and that's definitely something that people need to work on. Even veterans, it's always something that you need to work and perfect. And to go back to your first question, which I did not answer, yeah, I would love to do that. I actually really love to be an agent. I love setting up other people's matches and what's your moves, what's yours? Okay, I feel this is a good cutoff, this is a good falsie, and then put things in places so they mean something. And like I said, create that roller coaster of emotions, and you create that match and you have that story, and people will go back they go back home, it's like, wow, they had me on the edge of my seat when this match. So I love being an agent. It's definitely something I would love to do.
In your career, did you find that being a babyface or a heel was more beneficial for your character?
I've been a babyface most of my career because that's how I was booked. But I love being a heel. Oh, I feel I'm so much better as a heel because I can control the match. I know how to slow down the match, and I feel like so much better as a heel. When even for promos, I feel my promos are so much stronger as a heel. Babyface, like when I was like the super hardcore anime, like I didn't really have a choice. It was such a bubbly character, violent in the ring, but everything else was like kind of funny and bubbly and stuff. And it was fun, but I didn't feel as fulfilled as when I went to Shine Wrestling and they turned me heel and they gave me the microphone. Now you talk. I was like, oh yeah. So yeah, heel, definitely heel. I wish if I would have the opportunity to go on a bigger stage, I really feel that as a heel I could be a better ring general. Like, don't get me wrong, I feel I'm really good at getting the people on my side when I'm a babyface, but for some reason I feel like I'm more efficient being a heel.
You're from Canada, very rich in professional wrestling tradition. In your opinion, who is the Mount Rushmore of Canadian wrestling?
Oh,
you can put yourself on that if you want.
No.
It's fine.
I would maybe women's wrestling, but my God, like you say, there's such a big, like in just the province of Quebec alone, there was two things back in the 50s up to the 70s. There was hockey with Maurice Richard and the Canadians, and there was wrestling. Yvon Robert was such a big name. Andre the Giant was here. Edouard Carpentier. You got the Hart brothers in Alberta. My God, you can, if you want to go like not as far. You got the Landstorm, the Chris Jericho, the Edge. There's so many people when it comes to Canada. So Mount Rushmore. That's really tough. Like the Vachon, I would think Mad Dog Vachon's definitely on the Mount Rushmore of the greatest heels that was. But here's the thing with him, he was such a good heel that at the end of his life, like the last few years, he was on TV doing children's shows because the people loved them so much. He was so good at being bad that they fell in love with him. So yeah, the Vachon, the Ledukes, my God. Yeah, it's really tough. I don't have an answer.
I've always just been a bigger fan of a lot of the Canadian wrestlers. It is probably just because of the technical prowess that they brought during the Attitude Era, the entertainment part of professional wrestling. I fell in love with watching wrestling for wrestling. As
much as I love the hardcore when I did it and everything, I've always been, like I was telling you, what I really love right now is the pure tournament. Like what I really love about wrestling is that technical style. So one of my favorite when I started was Owen Hart. Like I was looking at him because when I started I was a heel, so I was looking at his mannerism and how he would look at people and everything. And when I turned heel for the Shine Wrestling championship and everything, I looked at a lot of Chris Jericho because as a heel with his feud with Shawn Michaels, I thought he always went like a little bit over the edge. And he brought so much more, and you really hated him. Like, he was that good. So, yeah, I feel like when I need inspiration, I go back to my Canadians.
There's nothing wrong with that. Tom down there is a big Bret Hart hater. Do not let him lie. He's a big Shawn Michaels guy, and I'm a huge Bret guy. So
hey, I'm just glad she hasn't mentioned him solely by himself. She mentioned Owen, who is the best Hart there is.
She said the Hart.
Here's the thing: when people were fighting Bret or Owen, I was a Owen fan. So, but I met Bret Hart, really nice man. He was really, really kind. And I mean, when you watch it, his matches, like technically sound, like everything is, he can't do no wrong. And if you put him against anybody, that's one of his strengths with Bret Hart. He's going to get that good match with anybody.
Right.
But for me, Owen had that little something more that was like so appealing. And he was more of a, I love, like, he was such a, I don't know the word, but as a heel, you're like, oh my God, I just want to punch him, but he's so good. Like, you're like, woo, and like all everything, like his facial expressions were so great.
Yeah, he had that just little bit of extra
Yeah.
that made him special.
I'm not taking anything away from Owen. I love some Owen Hart too, but Bret's the man. That's just, I'll stick with that. Bret's the man for me.
I can't argue though, because I would understand why someone would love Bret Hart, because I love him too. It's just like as I said, when people were fighting Bret or Owen, I was on Owen's side. I've always been. I actually don't know if you can see it. This one here, this is actual like a picture of a sign by Owen when I met him. So yeah, he's like framed right in the middle.
Now I'm jealous. Actually, that wall is pretty good. I can see Vader on that wall. I mean, you got a lot of real legends there.
Yeah, it's a little bit of my stuff and my boyfriends. Like for me, like I have Luna Vachon, I have Sherri Martel, I have Manami Toyota, I have The Undertaker, Owen Hart, and yeah, like the Vader is my boyfriend's. Like, and he also wrestled Tommy Dreamer, so he has one of those too. So yeah, we
mentioned
have a cool
Luna and Sherri Martel, and those are two ladies in professional wrestling that don't get enough credit at all. Everyone always starts off with Trish or Lita, and this generation right here. But talk to us a little bit about Sherri and Luna.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I feel like especially when it comes like to Luna Vachon, like a lot of, I was talking to Dan Murphy from PWI, and he was like, who are the wrestlers you think don't get enough credit for making people look good? I'm like, well, without Luna Vachon, there's no Sable. She made Sable look like $1 million, and so did Jazz. And I mean, Jazz with Trish. That's one thing I always thought, like Jazz was so, she made everybody look good. She was strong. She was a legit badass. And Sherri Martel, as a manager or as a wrestler, she was so good. Like, again, with the facial, the expressions, the way she would look at people. And she was like, all, like so vicious. And definitely, yeah, I think they don't get enough credit for, you know, being so good. And I would have loved to see those two like wrestle today. They like with so many women wrestlers out there, I would have loved to wrestle Sherri Martel or team with Luna, or it would have been like awesome to see them in a setting where women wrestling is important. Like, because back then was more of an attraction. So they had like short matches, and a lot of their opponents were not like properly trained or barely, or so yeah, I wish I could see them today.
Sherri was always one of the most underrated bumpers
oh my God,
in professional wrestling history. I mean, she would just take the bumps from the guys like she was one of the guys.
And she would, at every match, like you would see when she was managing Macho Man, she would fly from, like, remove her heels and fly from the top rope wearing a dress. She was awesome.
Go ahead, Tom.
So if you were to fantasy book a WrestleMania in this current environment with Luna main eventing the show, who would you want her to wrestle?
Akira Okuda. It would just be violent. It would be great. They're like definitely one of my favorites.
I would have loved to have seen that happen.
Yeah.
Well, before we let you go, first and foremost, again, thank you so much for joining us. I greatly appreciate it, and all your contributions to the world of professional wrestling. I don't think you give yourself enough credit. I think you're on that Mount Rushmore of Canadian wrestlers for sure. And there's a lot of other people who really believe that for everything that you've brought to professional wrestling throughout your years. You need to humble yourself a little bit and take a little bit of that credit, even if you don't want to. Tell us real quick before we let you go, though, where can people find you? And tell us a little bit about your upcoming book that you've got coming up.
Easiest way to find me is LuFisto.com. From there, you'll get access to my Twitter, my Patreon, my YouTube channel where I post matches. Also, Wounded Al LuFisto on Instagram. But as I said, if you can't remember all that, LuFisto.com, you'll get all the links there. The actual, real story, all the championships I won throughout the year. And as for my book, I was actually working on it this morning. I'm compiling all kinds of stories. I don't know how long this book will be. I have a limit and I have too much stuff, I think. It's supposed to come out in 2022, hopefully sooner. But there's, like I said, there's so much stuff to go through that's why it's taking so long.
I feel you.
Yeah. So hopefully soon enough. But working on it.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know, LuFisto will have a chapter in my book coming up, but she's right. You feel like you're right there at the end, and then something comes up and you're like, oh, I need to add that. Or something, clicks in your mind a little bit. I've had some people just finally email me back after like 3 months of me asking them a question. I'm like, oh, now you answer it. So,
yeah, I'm going through because I kept everything throughout the years, like newspaper cuts and stuff from internet. So I read over it's like, oh my God, I forgot about that story and it's so important. So you write down more stuff and then you flip pages like, oh my God, I forgot about that. It's like it's been like over 25 years, you forget things and then like you go into a process where you're like going over your life, and I feel there's so many things you just like put behind and like don't think about it anymore, but like they're key elements to what made you who you are today, and you just forget about it. But then when you write a book, you go through that process of going over stuff and you're like, wow, I forgot about this is so important. And it's like, and there's like stories that are really hard, and I'm like, oh my God, this happened, and I kind of didn't want to think about it anymore. And it did happen, and it's a tough process also. Like you look deep down into whatever happened, and I feel there's a lot of stuff in our lives that you just put behind and you don't want to think about it, but and you write a book and you have to. So yeah, it's kind of tough to go over a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, to have the career that you've had, I mean, it's understandable for sure. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're a very busy woman and you've got a lot on your plate. But again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And Tom, this feels the same way. Definitely a legend in the sport. And we'll like to catch up with you again soon sometime.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody. Have a good night.